Commander Ryland stepped off the landing platform and onto the dusty red soil of the alien planet. The wind was warm but dry, carrying tiny particles of crystal dust that sparkled faintly under the pale red sun. Jagged mountains surrounded the landing site, their peaks glinting as though carved from some giant gemstone. Ryland adjusted his pack and took a deep breath. The readings on his scanner were strange but stable, a low, continuous energy signal ancient in origin. He had come alone, the risks carefully weighed against the possibility of discovering something extraordinary. Unlike many explorers who preferred heavy armor and thick shields, Ryland had chosen a lighter suit. Today, however, he had even removed the outer layer, deciding to rest without armor. He trusted his instincts. So far, the planet had seemed calm. No creatures had approached. No sudden storms threatened. The land lay silent and still, almost peaceful. He set up a small camp near the base of a crystal outcrop that shimmered faintly in the light. The crystals grew in clusters, tall and sharp, each one catching the last rays of the sun. Ryland could feel a subtle vibration under his feet, almost like the planet itself was breathing. He did not know whether it was real or a trick of his senses. Ryland unpacked his small supplies, placing a water container and a few rations nearby. He unrolled his sleeping mat and sat down to examine the scanner. The energy signal was faint like a heartbeat but steady. His mission was simple in description, but not in execution. Find the source of the energy and report back. If possible, study it. He had seen enough alien worlds to know that beauty often hid danger, and danger often hid beauty. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the red sky deepened into a darker hue, and shadows stretched across the landscape. Ryland stood and stretched, looking at the mountains in the distance. In that quiet moment, he felt something almost human about the planet. It was vast, yes, and alien, but there was a rhythm here that he could almost understand. He noticed faint tracks near the base of the crystals. They glimmered slightly under the fading light. Curious, he knelt to examine them. They were not footprints as he knew them, nor marks left by any animal he had ever studied. They were smooth, like trails of energy pressed into the soil, shimmering faintly. Ryland's eyes widened. He had not expected this. He paused for a moment, listening. The wind whispered through the crystals, producing a soft, melodic hum. The tracks seemed to glow in response, pulsing lightly in the same rhythm as the hum. Ryland felt a shiver run down his spine. He knew that humans were resilient, but he also knew caution was wise. Still, there was no immediate threat. He shook his head slightly and decided to rest. He removed his light suit's outer layer entirely, letting the evening breeze touch his skin. It was rare for him to rest like this on an alien planet, but something about this place felt safe, or at least he hoped it was safe. Lying down on the mat, he gazed at the sky. The stars were strange and bright. Some of them were not stars at all, but faraway planets glowing faintly in the distance. Ryland felt a sense of insignificance, yet also an excitement that only explorers truly understand. Slowly, his eyes grew heavy. The hum of the wind, the faint pulse of the crystals, the soft glow of the tracks, it all became a lullaby. Ryland let his mind drift, thinking of home, of the humans who had trained him, of the curiosity that had driven him to explore the stars. His breathing evened out. Sleep came gently, as though the planet itself encouraged it. Hours passed. The red sky had vanished, replaced by a deeper black that was almost blue, dotted with countless stars. Ryland's body lay still, unarmored, vulnerable, and yet the vulnerability did not bring fear. Something subtle had shifted in the air, something alive and aware. From the shadows between the crystal clusters, faint lights began to move. At first they were small and distant, barely perceptible. Then they grew brighter, hovering above the ground like floating flames. Their shapes were unlike anything Ryland had ever seen. They were humanoid in outline but transparent, almost made of light itself. Ryland stirred slightly in his sleep. His senses, even while resting, were attuned to danger. The lights approached slowly, silently, without causing a single rustle or disturbance in the dust. When the closest one reached the edge of the camp, it stopped. Its glow softened like it was observing. For a long moment there was only quiet. Then Ryland felt it, not with his eyes but with his mind. A thought, clear and gentle, entered his consciousness. Do not fear. It was not a voice as humans knew it, but a feeling. A presence that spoke directly to him. His heart raced, but he did not feel terror. Only awe. Ryland opened his eyes slightly. The glowing figure did not move threateningly. Instead, it extended a hand, or something like a hand composed of light, toward him. A wave of calm passed through him. He felt no need to reach for weapons. He had none anyway. The moment was surreal. The figure's light pulsed, and with each pulse, Ryland felt images rushing through his mind. He saw the planet as it had been long ago, lush and filled with civilizations that glowed like the lights now before him, cities built into crystal mountains, machines that harnessed the planet's energy, creatures of intelligence and beauty, all gone now. The images were fleeting, but their impact was immense. Ryland's breath caught. Humans had explored strange worlds, but nothing like this. Nothing had ever communicated so directly, so profoundly. And yet the feeling in his chest was not fear. It was recognition. Somehow, even though these beings were not human, there was a connection, a shared intelligence, a shared curiosity. The lights continued to hover around him, not intruding, not threatening, merely present. Ryland could sense the energy of the planet responding to their presence, pulsing through the crystals, through the soil, through him. It was as though the planet itself had awakened in response to these visitors, and to him. Minutes, or was it hours? Passed. The night seemed endless and alive. Ryland's mind felt stretched, filled with visions, sounds, and emotions he could not fully name. And then, as quietly as they had arrived, the figures began to drift back toward the shadows. Their glow faded slowly, leaving only the soft hum of the wind and the faint pulse of the crystals. Ryland remained still, staring at the spot where they had disappeared. His heart pounded with exhilaration. His mind raced with questions. Who were these beings? How had they survived? How could they communicate so perfectly without words? He felt a spark of pride. Humans were fragile, yes, but courage, curiosity, and persistence had brought him here, to a moment that few of his kind would ever witness. He was not armored. He was alone, and yet he had faced something magnificent and survived. Finally, exhaustion pulled him back. His mind buzzed with the images and feelings of the night, but sleep returned, deeper now, as if the planet itself allowed him rest. He understood, even if only intuitively, that his encounter was only the beginning. The planet had secrets ancient and profound, waiting for those brave enough to approach with respect and intelligence. As he slept, the faint glowing tracks around his camp remained, silent witnesses to the night's events. They shimmered gently like a heartbeat, a promise that more wonders and challenges were yet to come. Commander Ryland had arrived on an alien world alone, without armor. And what greeted him had left him stunned. The stars wheeled above, silent observers of a human courage that reached beyond fear. And somewhere in the darkness, the planet's ancient energy pulsed, waiting. Ryland woke to a strange warmth in the air. The red sky had faded completely, replaced by a deep dark blue sprinkled with unfamiliar stars. The crystals around him shimmered faintly, casting gentle reflections across the soft red dust. For a moment he thought he might still be dreaming. But the subtle vibration under his feet, the same he had felt yesterday, reminded him that this world was real. Then he noticed them. The glowing figures from last night had returned. They hovered around the camp, delicate and bright like living constellations. Each one seemed to pulse in rhythm with the crystals, their light soft but unmistakable. Ryland's heart raced, not from fear but from awe. These beings were unlike anything humans had ever encountered. They were humanoid in outline, yet entirely made of shifting light and energy. There was no armor, no weaponry, no expression as humans knew it. Yet every movement conveyed intelligence and curiosity. Ryland sat up slowly, careful not to startle them. The figures paused, seemingly observing him with a quiet patience that was almost human. And then he felt it, a thought not spoken entering his mind. Do not be afraid. It was a gentle presence, a feeling rather than words, but its meaning was unmistakable. Ryland's breathing slowed as he realized these beings had no intention of harming him. He felt a strange connection, as if his mind were reaching out and touching theirs. For the first time in his life, he understood what it might mean to communicate without language, to connect through thought and emotion alone. One of the beings hovered closer than the others. Its glow intensified, bathing Ryland in a warm, gentle light. The energy around him seemed to vibrate in response, and suddenly images filled his mind. He saw the planet as it had been long ago, vast cities built from crystal, flying machines that glided like birds, and beings who moved in harmony with the planet's energy. Ryland gasped as he absorbed the scene. Civilization had thrived here once. A civilization both beautiful and intelligent now vanished. The vision shifted, showing him the destruction. A cosmic event had struck the planet, spreading energy so powerful it destroyed the cities and scattered the inhabitants. But the planet survived. The crystals remained, storing memories of the past. And now somehow Ryland had been chosen to witness it. Ryland steadied himself, blinking rapidly. His mind reeled from the influx of images and emotions. He had seen wonders before, yes, but never anything like this. The beings, if they could even be called that, were patient, letting him take in the vision slowly, guiding him without force. Then the closest figure reached out again. This time the contact was physical, or as physical as light could be. A wave of energy passed into Ryland, not painful, not overwhelming, but profound. In an instant, he understood that the beings were not merely intelligent. They were caretakers of the planet, guardians of its knowledge and its energy. They had survived through a bond with the world itself, becoming part of it in a way humans could barely comprehend. Ryland struggled to form words, but he realized that words were not necessary here. The beings did not need speech. They communicated directly, through thought, feeling, and vision. He sent them a message in return. I am human. I come in peace. I wish only to understand. A gentle pulse answered him. Acceptance, and then more images. This time, they were not of the planet's past, but of its potential. Ryland saw visions of humans arriving on distant worlds, not as conquerors, but as explorers and learners. He saw a pattern. Humans, despite their physical fragility, had a unique quality. They were brave, curious, and persistent. They adapted. They could reach beyond fear and touch the unknown. A smile crept across Ryland's face. Even without armor, he had arrived here. Even without weapons, he faced the unknown and lived. And now he understood something profound. Humanity's strength was not in shields or armor, but in courage, curiosity, and integrity. The beings seemed to sense his understanding. Their glow brightened briefly, then softened, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ryland felt his body relax. For a long while, the world was silent except for the faint hum of the crystals and the gentle rhythm of the lights around him. Then, one of the beings moved to the edge of the camp and pointed toward a narrow path, winding between the crystal peaks. Another thought entered Ryland's mind. Follow. Learn. Ryland nodded to himself, feeling a surge of excitement. He packed his small supplies, careful not to disturb the delicate environment. He had traveled across many worlds, but this was different. Every step he took here mattered. The planet had secrets, and he had been invited to discover them. The path was narrow and winding, lit faintly by the natural glow of the crystals. Ryland moved cautiously, aware of every sound, every vibration under his feet. The figures floated alongside him, silent and graceful, guiding him without hurrying. They led him to a clearing where the largest cluster of crystals he had ever seen rose like towers into the sky. The entire area glowed with a soft light that made the night feel almost like day. In the center of the cluster, Ryland noticed a massive crystal, larger than any structure he had ever encountered. Its surface shimmered with colors he could not name, and it seemed to hum with energy, a low, constant vibration that resonated through his body. As he approached, he felt a pull, a connection. The crystal was alive, not conscious in the way humans were, but aware. It had stored the memories of the planet, and now somehow it recognized him. The beings surrounded the crystal, their light merging with its glow. Then another wave of images filled Ryland's mind. He saw the planet's history in detail, the rise of civilizations, their mastery of energy, the disasters that had reshaped the world. And through it all, he saw humans, not yet born on this planet, but destined to arrive somewhere in the universe, curious and brave. The crystal seemed to acknowledge this potential, linking the planet's ancient knowledge to human curiosity. Ryland knelt before the crystal, overwhelmed but focused. His mind absorbed the visions, the energy, the wisdom of a civilization long gone. He understood that he had been chosen not for his strength, but for his qualities as a human: courage, integrity, and curiosity. These were traits the crystal recognized, traits that could shape the future. Suddenly the beings pulsed brightly and the images stopped. Ryland blinked, adjusting to the absence of constant vision. One of the figures hovered close, and for a moment he felt a direct connection. He sent the thought, why me? Why humans? A gentle reply came, Humans reach beyond. Humans endure. Humans create. They may protect or destroy, but those who endure, who seek knowledge with respect, carry the promise of the universe. Ryland's mind raced. He had always known humans were resilient, but he had never understood the depth of what that meant. Fragile in body, yes, but unmatched in spirit, curiosity, and courage. That combination had brought him here. That combination would allow humans to reach beyond the stars. The beings pulsed again, and the crystal's light shifted, showing a path. Ryland understood that it was not just a path through the mountains, but a symbol, a journey he must undertake to learn more, to share knowledge wisely, to face challenges with intelligence and courage. For hours, he remained in the clearing, absorbing what he could. He did not sleep. He did not eat. He simply existed, connected to the planet, to the beings, and to a vision of humanity's potential. And in that quiet, Ryland realized something profound. Sometimes the greatest discovery was not a place or an artifact, but a truth about one's own kind. Humans were capable of wonder, of bravery, and of reaching beyond fear. That realization filled him with energy greater than any weapon or suit of armor could provide. Finally, as the first pale light of a distant sun touched the horizon, Ryland felt the figures begin to drift back toward the shadows. The crystal's glow dimmed slightly, though it still hummed with life. Ryland knew that his time in the clearing was over, but the knowledge he had gained would remain. He stood and looked at the path ahead. It was clear now that the journey was only beginning. The planet held more secrets, more challenges, and perhaps even more revelations about humanity's place in the universe. But Ryland felt ready. The beings had shown him that courage, curiosity, and respect could bridge worlds, connect civilizations, and unlock knowledge beyond imagination. With one last glance at the glowing figures, Ryland set off down the path. The planet's energy pulsed beneath his feet, guiding him. Every step was deliberate, every breath measured, yet each carried a sense of purpose he had never felt before. Humans were small and fragile, yes, but they carried a light within that no alien force, no cosmic event, could extinguish. And as he walked, Ryland could not help but smile. He was alone, without armor, on an alien world, yet he had faced wonders, survived encounters beyond comprehension, and glimpsed truths that few humans would ever know. The adventure had only begun, and already it had changed him forever. Ryland followed the narrow crystal path deeper into the mountains. The glowing figures moved alongside him, floating with quiet grace. Each step he took seemed to awaken a subtle hum from the crystals beneath his feet. The air vibrated with energy, gentle yet powerful, as if the planet itself was alive and aware of his presence. The path led to a wide cavern, its entrance framed by massive crystal spires that glimmered like frozen flames. Inside, the light shifted and danced across the walls, creating colors that Ryland could not name. The cavern was enormous, stretching far beyond what his eyes could see. The glow of the crystals illuminated patterns etched into the stone, lines, symbols, and designs that seemed alive with energy. The figures floated to the center of the cavern, surrounding a single massive crystal that towered above Ryland. It pulsed with a soft light, casting shimmering reflections across the cavern walls. The air hummed with energy, and Ryland could feel it deep in his chest like a heartbeat he could not ignore. As he approached, the largest figure reached out. A wave of energy entered Ryland's mind, and suddenly he was seeing the planet's history, not as images but as living memory. He saw civilizations rise, intelligent beings who had learned to harness the energy of the crystals. They built cities that flowed with life, machines that moved in harmony with the natural forces of the world, and networks that connected all living creatures in understanding. Ryland gasped. The knowledge was overwhelming, but he did not feel fear. Instead, he felt inspired. Humans were fragile in body, yes, but their curiosity and persistence reminded him of the beings before him. He understood now why they had reached out to him. He was here not to conquer or to take, but to witness, to learn, and to carry the memory forward. The vision shifted, showing the catastrophe that had destroyed the planet's civilizations. A cosmic storm had struck, spreading a wave of energy that reshaped the world and scattered its inhabitants. But the crystals had survived, storing the knowledge and history of the lost civilizations. The beings he saw now were the result. They had become guardians, merging with the energy of the planet itself to preserve its secrets. Ryland's mind raced. The humans he represented were small and unarmed compared to such forces. Yet the being's choice to reveal these truths to him suggested something greater. Humans had a unique capacity to endure, to adapt, to approach challenges with creativity and morality. It was the combination of these traits that allowed him to stand here unarmored, witnessing wonders few beings in the universe could comprehend. One of the figures sent a thought directly to him. Knowledge must be chosen, not taken. Power must be guided, not demanded. Rylan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He understood that this was not just a discovery. It was a test of character. How humans handled this knowledge could shape their destiny, and perhaps the destiny of worlds beyond this one. The massive crystal pulsed again, and a new vision appeared. Rylan saw humans traveling across the galaxy, not as conquerors but as explorers and learners. He saw cities on distant planets, thriving through collaboration, understanding, and courage. And through it all, he sensed the same qualities the beings recognized in him: resilience, ingenuity, and the unyielding drive to explore the unknown. A gentle warmth passed through him as he realized the truth. Humans, despite their physical fragility, were capable of great courage and wisdom. They could face the unknown, overcome fear, and connect with forces far beyond their understanding. That combination of traits, their unique humanity, was their greatest strength. Rylan stepped closer to the massive crystal. The energy within it responded to his presence, pulsing brighter as if acknowledging his understanding. He reached out with his hand, feeling the vibration of ancient memory travel through him. The cavern seemed to come alive, the walls shimmering with stories, knowledge, and emotion. Through the crystal, Rylan saw the being's purpose. They were not simply guardians. They were teachers. They had preserved the knowledge of a civilization that had fallen, waiting for a species capable of understanding it. Humans were not yet fully ready, but those who approached with courage, respect, and intelligence could learn, could grow, and could carry the legacy forward. The realization was humbling. He was small in the vastness of space, yet he carried the potential of his species. His heart swelled with determination. He would not fail. He would respect the knowledge, share it wisely, and ensure it was used for the greater good. The vision shifted again, showing Rylan a device of some sort, a structure built from crystal and energy floating above the ground. It seemed to be a key, a way to access even deeper knowledge stored within the planet. The beings pulsed brightly, encouraging him to follow, to explore, to learn. Rylan approached the device, feeling a strange sense of familiarity. It responded to his presence, moving slightly as if inviting him to engage. He touched it lightly, and another wave of understanding flowed through him. This was not a weapon. It was a tool, a guide, a way to connect with the energy of the planet and the knowledge it held. Suddenly, he felt a surge of energy. A test. The device projected an illusion of danger, walls collapsing, energy surging uncontrollably, but Rylan remained steady. He understood that fear could cloud judgment. Humans had the ability to think, to reason, to act with courage even when faced with the unknown. That was what the beings had wanted him to recognize. The illusions vanished, leaving Rylan standing before the device and the massive crystal. The beings pulsed gently as if acknowledging his success. He realized that this was only the beginning. The planet held more secrets, more knowledge, and more challenges. But he felt ready. Humans were fragile in form. Yes, but their spirit, their intelligence, and their curiosity made them capable of wonders that armor and weapons could never achieve. For hours, he explored the cavern, learning from the device and the crystal. He absorbed visions of the planet's past, of civilizations lost and lessons learned. He saw how energy could be harnessed not for destruction, but for creation and understanding. Every image reinforced the same truth. Humans had the potential to do great things, to reach beyond fear, and to shape the universe through courage, knowledge, and respect. As the light of a distant sun began to filter through the cavern entrance, Rylan paused. He looked at the glowing figures who had been with him every step of the way. He sent a thought, "Thank you. I will honor this knowledge." The response was gentle, almost like a sigh of approval. Go, learn, share wisely. Protect what must be protected. Rylan felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had come to this planet alone, without armor, trusting his instincts. He had been tested, guided, and taught. And now he understood something profound. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in weapons or shields, but in courage, curiosity, integrity, and the drive to explore. He turned toward the cavern entrance, ready to continue his journey. The path ahead was uncertain, full of challenges, but he was no longer just a lone human on a strange world. He was a representative of his species, carrying potential, hope, and the promise of what humans could achieve. The glowing figures drifted ahead, lighting the way. Rylan followed, feeling the pulse of the planet beneath his feet, connecting him to the energy, the history, and the future waiting to be discovered. And in that moment, he knew that no matter how fragile humans appeared, they had a spark that could illuminate even the darkest corners of the universe. The cavern seemed to whisper, a soft hum in the air. The crystal pulsed gently as if agreeing. Rylan smiled to himself. He had faced wonders, he had learned truths, and he had survived, without armor, alone. And yet he had never felt stronger. The journey was far from over. The planet had more to reveal, more knowledge to offer, and more tests to challenge him. But Rylan felt ready. For the first time, he truly understood the value of human courage and wisdom. He understood that humans, fragile though they might be, were capable of reaching beyond fear, beyond limits, and into the extraordinary. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, following the glowing figures into the deeper reaches of the cavern. Every step carried promise, every heartbeat carried courage. The planet had revealed its past, and now it was preparing him for the future. Rylan, a human without armor, alone in an alien world, smiled. The truth was clear. Humans could endure, adapt, and achieve wonders that even the stars had yet to imagine. Rylan followed the glowing figures deeper into the cavern. The walls here were taller, the crystals larger, and the energy stronger. Each step seemed to hum beneath his feet, as if the planet itself was aware of his presence and guiding him forward. The figures pulsed gently, communicating without words, and Rylan felt the connection between him and the planet grow stronger. At last, the path opened into a massive chamber. It was unlike anything Rylan had seen so far. Crystals of every color rose from the floor like towers, their surfaces smooth and glowing with inner light. In the center of the chamber floated a sphere of pure energy, shimmering with patterns that shifted and changed as though alive. The glowing figures paused at the edges of the chamber, their light brightening in anticipation. Rylan approached the sphere carefully. The energy within it was intense but not dangerous, at least not yet. As he drew closer, he felt a sudden awareness settle over him. The sphere seemed to be judging him, testing his mind, his character, and his courage. The beings had led him here for a reason, and now the trial had begun. A thought entered his mind, clear and direct. To gain knowledge, you must choose. To use power, you must be wise. What will you take? Rylan's heart raced. He understood immediately. The planet offered him a choice. He could take knowledge, powerful and vast, and leave immediately. Or he could protect it, learn deeper truths, and face challenges to prove his worth. The first choice promised immediate gain but carried risk. The second choice required patience, wisdom, and courage. He thought of humanity, fragile yet enduring, always reaching for the unknown. He thought of the future, of the people who would benefit from knowledge used wisely. And he thought of himself, not just as an explorer but as a human representing his species. He made his decision. I will protect it. I will learn. I will choose wisely. He sent into the energy, feeling it resonate in the chamber. The sphere pulsed brightly, and suddenly the chamber changed. Illusions appeared around him, walls collapsing, energy surging, and strange shapes darting through the shadows. Rylan's heart beat faster, but he did not falter. The visions tested his fear, attempting to cloud his judgment. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. Humans, he realized, were strongest when courage and reason worked together. He walked through the illusions calmly, observing them without panic. He focused on the pulse of the energy sphere, letting it guide him. The figures hovered nearby, their glow steady and reassuring, but they did not intervene. This trial was his alone. Hours seemed to pass, though Rylan did not know how much time had really gone by. Every illusion tested a different aspect of him: courage, patience, intelligence, and morality. He faced visions of temptation, showing him paths of power that could be taken selfishly. He faced visions of danger, testing his ability to remain calm under threat. and he faced visions of despair, reminding him of the fragility of life and the weight of responsibility. Through it all, Rylan remained resolute. He remembered the lessons from the glowing beings and the energy crystal. Courage without wisdom could be reckless. Power without respect could destroy. Knowledge taken without understanding could bring ruin. And above all, humans had a unique ability to endure, to think, and to choose rightly even when fear threatened to overwhelm them. Finally, the illusions faded. The chamber returned to its calm state, the energy sphere glowing gently at its center. Rylan breathed deeply, feeling a mixture of relief and exhilaration. He had passed the test. The glowing figures pulsed brightly, signaling approval, and a voice-like thought entered his mind. You have chosen wisely. You understand the responsibility that comes with knowledge. You have shown the qualities that allow humans to endure, to learn, and to grow. The energy sphere shifted, revealing a map within its glow. Stars, planets, and ancient civilizations were displayed in intricate patterns, showing not just the history of this world, but connections across the galaxy. Rylan realized that this knowledge was more than just a gift, it was a guide. Humans could reach other civilizations, understand their histories, and connect with the universe in ways they had never imagined. But the map also carried a warning. Knowledge must be protected, choices must be made with care, and power must never be used recklessly. Rylan understood that his journey was far from over. He had passed the first test, but greater challenges awaited. The glowing figures surrounded him, their light merging with the sphere. A thought entered his mind. The path ahead will be difficult, but you are ready. Remember what you have learned. Remember what humans can achieve when they act with courage, curiosity, and integrity. Rylan nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose. He had come to this planet alone, without armor, trusting his instincts. He had faced wonders beyond imagination, tested his courage, and learned truths that few humans would ever know. And he had chosen wisely, proving that humans were capable not just of survival, but of understanding and growth. The figures began to drift toward the chamber entrance, signaling that it was time to move forward. Rylan followed, the map of the galaxy glowing faintly in his mind. Every step he took was deliberate, carrying the weight of responsibility and the promise of discovery. The planet's energy pulsed beneath his feet, guiding him forward, and Rylan felt a profound connection to the world, the beings and the potential of humanity. As he walked,
he reflected on what he had learned.
Humans were small in comparison to the universe, fragile in body and limited in strength, yet they possessed something remarkable: the ability to face fear, to think critically, to act with courage, and to make choices guided by morality and understanding. That combination was rare, powerful, and transformative. It was what allowed him to stand here unarmored, facing the unknown. Hours passed as he followed the figures deeper into the cavern. The path narrowed, winding between towering crystals that glowed with soft inner light. Energy pulsed through the walls, floor, and ceiling as though the planet itself were alive. Rylan's senses were heightened, every vibration and sound alerting him to the living presence of the world. At last they arrived at a chamber even larger than the previous one. In the center floated a crystal formation unlike any Rylan had seen before. It was a network of crystals, interwoven and complex, humming with energy that resonated in perfect harmony. The glowing figures paused, and a thought entered Rylan's mind. This is the heart of the planet. It holds knowledge, energy, and the future of those who learn wisely. Rylan stepped closer, feeling the vibrations deepen within him. The chamber seemed to respond to his presence, the crystals pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He reached out, touching one of the crystals lightly. A wave of energy entered him, showing visions of civilizations across the galaxy, some thriving, some fallen, and all connected through knowledge, courage, and the pursuit of understanding. The figures pulsed brightly, and another thought came. You are ready to choose your path. You may carry this knowledge to guide others, or you may protect it here until the time is right. Rylan reflected. The choice was immense. Taking the knowledge meant responsibility, leadership, and the potential to influence the course of humanity. Staying to protect it meant guarding ancient wisdom, ensuring it was used wisely but delaying its impact. He weighed the consequences carefully, understanding that humans, small and fragile though they might be, could achieve greatness if guided by courage and integrity. Finally, he made his decision. I will carry this knowledge to guide humanity. I will protect it, share it wisely, and honor the lessons I have learned. The chamber pulsed in response, the energy brightening, the crystals glowing with approval. The glowing figures surrounded him, their light merging with his own sense of purpose. A final thought entered his mind. You have chosen well. Humans are capable of great courage, wisdom, and endurance. Your journey is only beginning, but you carry the promise of your species. Go forward with honor. Ryland stepped back, feeling a surge of strength. He had passed the challenge. He had chosen wisely, and he understood something profound. Humans, though physically fragile, possessed qualities that allowed them to face the unknown, endure trials, and shape the future. That realization filled him with determination and hope. As the figures drifted toward the cavern entrance, Ryland followed. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges and discoveries, but he was ready. The energy of the planet pulsed beneath his feet, guiding him forward. He knew that humans, united by courage, curiosity, and integrity, could achieve wonders beyond imagination. And as he walked, Ryland smiled. Alone, unarmored on an alien world, he had faced tests of courage, intelligence, and morality, and had proven that humans were capable of extraordinary feats. The challenge of choice had shown him the strength of his species, and the journey ahead promised even greater discoveries. The first pale light of dawn touched the red mountains as Ryland emerged from the cavern. The glowing figures hovered beside him one last time, their light gentle and reassuring. The energy of the planet pulsed beneath his feet, a rhythm that had accompanied him through his trials, his discoveries, and his choices. Ryland took a deep breath, feeling both awe and responsibility settle in his chest. He looked back at the cavern, the crystals shimmering softly in the morning light. For hours, perhaps days, though time seemed fluid here, he had absorbed knowledge beyond anything a human could have imagined. He had learned of civilizations that had risen and fallen, of energy harnessed in ways that defied his understanding, and of the unique potential of his species. Humans were fragile in body, yes, but they carried something extraordinary within: courage, curiosity, integrity, and the drive to explore the unknown. The glowing figures communicated one final thought: go, guide your kind. Protect what must be protected, share what can be shared. Humans are capable of greatness, and your choices will shape the future. Ryland nodded, feeling a profound sense of purpose. He had come to this planet alone, without armor, trusting in his instincts and humanity's innate strengths. Now he would return not just as an explorer, but as a messenger, carrying wisdom that could guide humanity to new heights. The path to his ship was lit faintly by the natural glow of the crystals. As he walked, he reflected on the lessons he had learned. Knowledge without understanding could be dangerous. Power without wisdom could be destructive. Courage without integrity could lead to ruin. And yet humans had the ability to balance all these traits, to endure, to learn, and to act rightly even in the face of the unknown. That combination of qualities had brought him here, and would allow him to carry this knowledge forward. When he reached his ship, the landing platform gleaming faintly in the morning light, Ryland paused. The vessel had never felt so small, yet it was enough. Humans did not need giant machines to achieve great things. They needed determination, intelligence, and courage. He climbed aboard, secured his equipment, and prepared for departure. As the engines hummed and the ship lifted from the red soil, Ryland glanced back at the planet. The mountains glowed softly, the crystal caverns pulsing gently beneath the surface. He felt a wave of gratitude toward the beings who had guided him, toward the planet that had tested him, and toward his own species, whose potential had been recognized and honored. During the journey back, Ryland reviewed the knowledge he had absorbed. The galaxy was vast, filled with civilizations both known and unknown. Many had risen and fallen, some preserving wisdom, others losing it to time and catastrophe. The map he carried in his mind showed not just planets and stars, but connections, patterns, and possibilities. Humans, if guided wisely, could become part of this web of knowledge and understanding, contributing to the universe rather than merely surviving within it. Ryland felt a surge of responsibility. The knowledge was powerful, and humans were still learning. He would need to ensure that it was shared with care, with wisdom, and with respect for the consequences. The glowing figure's lessons were clear. Courage alone was not enough. Integrity, patience, and understanding were equally essential. As he navigated the stars, he thought of the people who would receive his report. Scientists, explorers, leaders, each would need guidance to understand the significance of what he had discovered. But more than that, they would need to understand humanity itself, its capacity for endurance, innovation, and morality. Humans were fragile, yes, but they were capable of extraordinary feats when driven by curiosity and guided by wisdom. The journey home was quiet, yet Ryland's mind was alive with ideas, strategies, and reflections. He considered how the knowledge could advance human exploration, science, and understanding. The energy harnessed by the ancient civilization could inspire new technologies. The lessons of the past could prevent mistakes and guide humanity toward sustainable growth. And most importantly, the understanding that humans were capable of greatness would inspire courage in those who would follow him. Days passed in the vacuum of space, yet Ryland's thoughts never wavered. He reviewed the maps in his mind, recalling the pulsating patterns of energy, the interconnectedness of civilizations, and the lessons imparted by the glowing beings. Every vision reinforced the same truth. Humans were small, yes, but their spirit, intelligence, and morality gave them power beyond mere physical strength. When the ship finally approached human space, Ryland contacted the command center. His message was simple but urgent. I have returned from the planet. I carry knowledge that can guide humanity. It is powerful, it is fragile, and it must be treated with care. The response was cautious, but Ryland understood. Humans had always been careful with the unknown, especially when it came to technology and civilizations beyond their comprehension. That caution was wise, but it could not hinder progress. Knowledge must be used, not feared. Ryland prepared for debriefing. He recounted the journey, the discoveries, and the lessons learned. He described the glowing figures, the crystal caverns, the ancient energy, and the trials he had faced. The command officers listened, awe and disbelief intermingling, yet they could sense the truth in his voice, in his confidence, and in his understanding of the human spirit. He concluded with the message that mattered most. Humans are fragile in body, but capable of immense courage, wisdom, and creativity. We can face the unknown, endure trials, and make choices that shape our future. The knowledge I bring must be shared wisely, with respect and understanding. That is how we will thrive. Weeks passed as the information was analyzed, studied, and understood. Scientists marveled at the energy patterns, strategists considered the potential of interstellar cooperation, and philosophers debated the ethical responsibilities that came with such knowledge. But through it all, one truth remained clear. Humans had been recognized for their unique qualities, their courage, and their intelligence. They were capable of more than survival. They were capable of greatness. Ryland watched as humans began to prepare for exploration, inspired by the knowledge he had brought back. Plans were made for careful missions, collaborations, and discoveries that respected the lessons he had learned. The beings on the alien planet had chosen wisely in sharing their secrets, and now humanity had a chance to rise in understanding and courage. One evening, as Ryland stood on the observation deck of his ship, he thought back to the red planet, the glowing figures and the crystal caverns. The memory was vivid, a reminder of the journey, the trials, and the choices that had defined him. He smiled, understanding something deeply. Humans were not defined by armor or weapons, but by their courage, curiosity, and wisdom. That was their greatest strength, and it would carry them far into the stars. He sent a silent thought of gratitude to the beings. Thank you for trusting me. I will honor your lessons. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, each one a possibility, a challenge, a mystery waiting to be discovered. Ryland knew that humanity's journey had only just begun. The universe was vast and filled with wonders, some perilous, some beautiful, but all within reach for those who dared to explore, to learn, and to act with courage. As the ship moved steadily toward human space, Ryland felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced the unknown without armor, guided only by human qualities that were far more powerful than any protection or weapon. He had been tested, taught, and transformed. And now, he carried with him not just knowledge, but a vision of what humanity could become. The future was uncertain, yes, but humans had something unique, the ability to endure, to think, to act with courage and wisdom. That combination of traits would guide them, inspire them, and allow them to reach beyond the limits of their physical forms into the extraordinary. Ryland gazed at the stars, a quiet smile on his face. Alone, without armor, he had ventured into a world of wonders and returned changed. Humans were small, fragile, and limited in body, but they carried a spark of courage, intelligence, and determination that could illuminate even the darkest corners of the universe. And in that spark lay the promise of greatness. The journey ahead was long, the challenges many, but Ryland was ready. Humanity had been tested, and humanity had proven that it could endure, adapt, and rise. The knowledge he brought would be used wisely. The lessons he had learned would guide others, and the future of his species would be brighter for it. As the ship entered the orbit of human space, Ryland felt a profound sense of hope. The universe was vast, full of mysteries and challenges, but humans were ready. They had courage, wisdom, and a spirit that no obstacle could extinguish, and that, he realized, was more powerful than any armor, any weapon, or any protection. Ryland leaned back, letting the hum of the ship soothe him. The stars shone brightly. The future stretched endlessly before him, and humanity's journey was only beginning. He had rested without armor, faced wonders beyond imagination, and returned to share the lessons of courage, curiosity, and wisdom, and humanity would rise,